little English lesson to all the newcomers in our country. No means no, and temporary means you're not allowed to stay here forever. But Democrats gave millions of third worlders temporary protected status that has lasted for decades, in some cases, 20 years, even though it is defined as a temporary protection that is eligible for foreign-born individuals who say it's unsafe to return to their homes circumstances. Well, it's unsafe to drive through Chicago. It's unsafe to go to many American cities. And what does that mean? Does that mean that I can get temporary protected status somewhere else? No. Haiti is built by and created by Haitians, and Haitians should have to live under the policies that their people create. Same with Somalia, same with every nation. A nation is its people. Same thing with Ethiopia. Massive win for the Trump administration. Federal judge just lifted a block on temporary protected status for Ethiopians. Why were there a bunch of the Ethiopians here? Nobody knows. Nobody has any idea. They tell you that life's so terrible in Africa and that we need to give infinity USAID dollars to Africa. But Africa has a much higher birth rate than anywhere else on planet Earth. And I mean, it takes a lot of effort to make a child. It takes a lot of energy and resources and food to be able to foster civilization. And so Africa seems to be doing just fine. Why is it that we have to absorb the masses of the third world constantly, who, by the way, seem to be doing better than us? They have 4 times the birth rate as than Americans. So somebody explain that to me. Why do we need to be funding or giving protected status to people from Ethiopia or Somalia or anywhere in the sub-Sahara or anywhere in Africa? Massive win for the Trump administration. Ethiopians are temporary too. This termination means that there is now millions across America that have had their temporary protected status eliminated. U.S. judge allows Trump to end thousands of Ethiopians' deportation protections. Federal judge Brian Murphy lifted the stay of termination for Ethiopians. All Trump administration TPS terminations are now in effect for the below countries, which total more than 1 million people. El Salvador is next. TPS for El Salvador is set to extend would effectively 170,000 El Salvadorians in the U.S. Why? They're practically a first world country. I mean, listen, I can understand why you'd want to be protected from living in Mogadishu or Port-au-Prince, but El Salvador? I want to travel to El Salvador. I haven't, but I'd like to. Looks nice. Anyway, look at this. Haiti, Syria, Yemen, Afghanistan, Cameroon, Nepal, Honduras, Nicaragua, South Sudan, Burma, Somalia, Ethiopia. All of them in effect. But that means you got to go home. All TS terminations are in effect, says James Percival. He's the counsel for DHS. He's won. We did it, Joe. I voted for this. Trump administration has ended millions of protections. So wait a second. Again, there's 330,000 Haitians here. 330,000. There's states that only have 1 million people in them. There's states that have less than 1 million people in them. So you're bringing in, you could just change you could make an entire state of Haiti here in America. It's obscene. Venezuela as well. Looks like there's 500,000 Venezuelans here. 500,000. You bring 500,000 of anybody anywhere and you'll change the place forever. And that was, of course, the goal. The last judicial roadblock falls. Everybody celebrate. Your election, your vote meant something. Activist judge caves. Democrats furious as ankle monitors are being applied. Here from CNN video, ankle monitors are being applied. Haitians are now getting ankle monitors. They had the option to leave with $2,000 in their back pocket and go home to Haiti. But instead they refused to take that option. So now they are going to be wearing ankle monitors to make sure that they don't go anywhere as they get sent back to Haiti. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly what I voted for. because we are not to be the dumping ground for the third world. Nobody voted for that. Not a single person in America voted for that to happen. Nobody. It's never been put up for a referendum. It's never been put up. Nobody has ever tried to make the case for infinity third world migration. In fact, it's the opposite, which is why it's also thrilling to look at Trump now restricting all legal immigration categories. Half the world is under travel restrictions. Entry paths are narrower. Legalization is rarer. From employment to education to processing has all stalled. The agenda is focused on eliminating legal immigration. Beautiful. Trump officials now restricting all legal immigration categories. The Trump administration is restricting all legal immigrant categories to reduce the flow of immigrants into America. Whew. Include a freeze by U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. The Trump administration has stopped all refugees from entering the United States, except white people from South Africa who are actual refugees, who are actually being hunted and killed. Wow. Like an actual genocide is happening. Immigration restrictions cut across all categories. Diversity visas paused. H-1B lottery ended. H-1B, F-1, J-1, OPT holders face new bureaucratic hurdles. Visa processing frozen on 75 countries. Travel bans on 39 countries. Public change of rule enforced first time in a century. Refugee admission at record low. Interior asylum denials at record high. Lawful entries down by 99%. Naturalization denials doubled, processing shows. Green card issues cut in half. All residents under review. Run it back. Realigning the United States refugee admission program. Donald Trump's executive order saying, we're not doing this anymore. It's amazing. Here's just like an important line. The United States lacks the ability to absorb large numbers of migrants, in particular refugees, into its communities in a manner that does not compromise the availability of resources for Americans, that protects their safety and security, and that ensures appropriate assimilation of the refugees. In order to suspend the refugee program until a time that further entry in the United States refugee aligns with the interests of the United States. Yes. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, Texas can now even deport their own criminal aliens. Refugee admissions have dropped to absolute record lows as the Department of Justice allows for the U.S. military to now take control of the U.S. border. Woo! The Department of Justice has effectively made half the U.S. border a military base, which means the military can enforce military law there and can enforce border migration as trespassing on U.S. military grounds. It's genius. You can look at what's been happening with immigration. You can see, no administration is perfect. I have major frustrations with, being the toll keeper of Hormuz. That's not what anybody voted for. That's not what anybody wants. And this is what I voted for. And so it is important to look at the absolute catastrophic collapse. Looks like all you needed was a new president. And this, the most important chart ever, right here. Voluntary departures increased by 28x. We've never seen anything like it. People are fleeing America, going home, back where they belong, because the Trump administration is forcing it to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how you win. More of this. Less toll keeping in Hormuz. I know people argue you can do both. There's only so much energy in the world. You can only focus on certain things. And the media loves war. They love a distraction. You would force the media to cover the good things happening in our country if you realigned and focused on this. And this is what we should do. That and cheap gas, cheap groceries, homes for all Americans. That's how we win. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe.